I didn't plan every second of our trip. In fact, I wasn't even sure, as you mentioned, if you all were coming with the week ahead. So I made sure we had accommodations. I generally knew the landscape of opportunities. We had one big dinner planned, and everything else was open to see how we were feeling and where we were, and assessing the safety, assessing expense, assessing mood, assessing health. But the vibe that I wanted was togetherness.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Erin, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom, because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world, but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
I hate your tan. I'm so jealous of your tan. All I had was a fake tan for 3 or 4 days.
You know what that says to me is that people do not vacation long enough. Like, you need to vacation as long as it takes you to get a very good tan. So, America, please rethink our vacation policies, because a few days is needed.
We have to talk about this. We have to start here with you taking 2.5-ish weeks,
19 days.
Anyone that's new, wow, that's amazing. But anyone's been on this journey for the 7 years we've been doing this and know how sacrificial you've been to the workplace lamb in the past, and not giving yourself not only that much time away, but like you said, you texted me, you didn't check your computer like that. If Nicole from episode, not even one, from episode like 100, 200, you'd be like, what?
256. Now, broad context here. I took 2.5 weeks of vacation, pure vacation, did not break the computer, did not check email, did not engage over text message, literally walked out on work and life for 2.5 weeks in the run up to my milestone birthday.
Half a fucking 100.
The big 50. And I had a game plan about 18 months ago about like how I wanted to feel when I turned 50, and the way that I wanted to celebrate it, where I wanted to celebrate it, who I wanted to celebrate it with. And I brought that.
How you wanted to feel. Tell, like,
what I wanted to feel. Yeah, that was a big part of it. 19 days in Mexico. Mexico is a very special place to me. And first of all, I wanted to be in a place that I love, surrounded by people I love. I'll even give further context. My birthday is April 2nd. It was a full moon, hot. And I was like, I'm going to be naked, skinny dipping under a full moon, fucking Caribbean Ocean on my 50th birthday. I was like, and I don't care if I'm with anybody or not with anybody, but I was like, that is how this is happening. So when I said, this is how I want to feel, that's the broader context.
Let's start with full moon.
That happened.
Skinny dipping.
Caribbean. Yeah, I just was like, all the great things, right? Like, you are at one with yourself, you're at one with your body, you're at one with your mind, you're experiencing all like the feels and the senses in this amazing time and place and space, hopefully with people you love, celebrating this milestone. I'm not a birthday person. I don't come from like a birthday tradition at all, but it's really not about the birthday. It was more about, I have spent 50 years on this fucking planet. I feel like it's been pretty good. I also don't necessarily want to do it the same way I've been doing it. I was like, I'm going to mark this as a shift. And of course, shifts don't just happen. They take like thought and planning and things like that. But I really
and your podcast co-host and good friend opting out of the trip 3 weeks ahead of time for temporarily.
But there were complications. Yes. So first of all, yes, everybody.
And then I opted back in. Yes.
Erin was one of those people. So of course I decided, first of all, we were going to go to Tulum. Now, I also didn't choose like some easy, like all-inclusive resort, someplace like easy to get to. Like, no, of course, I'm like, hey, let's try this place. And Tulum is crazy. And I was there, like, I've lived in Mexico. And I was there 30-something years ago when there was like a crab shack and some ruins on a beach. And I was like, that place was cool and different. And I think the Riviera Maya is awesome and we can all get there from Miami easily. That sounds great. And other people can meet us there because, of course, there's Jen and Sherry. And then violence in Mexico erupts. And now, granted, that was on the other coast, but Mexico is Mexico. It is one country. And admittedly, like, I understand folks got nervous, right? Because I am taking you to a place in the middle of the jungle and the beach in another country, in a place where sometimes the rules are different and, like, who knows? And of course, I was like, no problem. And you guys were a little bit like, maybe it's a problem, but we made accommodations. We adjusted.
When your husband works for the federal government 3-letter agency and tells you, I've never seen this before in my 13 years working here, we are not allowed to travel there even for official business anywhere in the country. And I was like, that's not good.
And my response is, oh, trust me, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
I'm booking a private car. You're like, and I'm like, I'll just ply them with many margaritas and a private vehicle and it will be fine. But we landed really well. And the other thing is, I'm sure a lot of people are laughing because Tulum is one of these places that's like literally like full of influencers and people who are living like this strangely alternative lifestyle where they, I don't know, they sell things out of bags on the beach and they look like perfect humans. And like, I've never seen so many perfect asses in my life. Like, I don't know where these people come from or what other markets they've failed out of, maybe like the runways of Paris, but they've all landed in Tulum and they're all living like their best lives.
We show up at yoga the first morning and there's a full video crew there. Like, not for the yoga place, for one of the influencers.
And how many times did we get asked if we're like, are you influencers? Are you filming? And I'm like,
I didn't get asked. You did?
Oh, our group got asked several times if we were like influencing. And I was like, no, we're just wandering around with our butts out and also like a flag that says I'm 50.
Have a flag.
You know what it was? I think we had a good vibe. Like, we had good energy. We were people like this. And so we landed in a good place in Tulum. We landed actually, and it was funny. Part of it was that we landed in like a family-ish resort. And this is funny. God help me. I hope she never listens to this. But I love my hairstylist, Ashley, right?
Mm-hmm.
The salon with the Gucci wallpaper where they all speak Italian. The girl who has the chair next to her is like one of the craziest humans I've ever met. She's dabbled in just about everything. She's also Sicilian. I love this girl. And so when she found out that I was going to Tulum and Isla Hobo, she was like, oh my God, I love it there. And she instantly pulled up the crazy pictures, stories. Clearly, there was a lot that was ingested while she was there. And I'm like, Laura, I was like, where do you recommend that I don't stay? And I was like, what are the places that you would never stay? And she rattles off a few, and I'm like, I'm going to go to those places. That's where I'm going. I was like, wherever there don't have Coke in the bathroom is where we're going. So we ended up with like kind of a family resort because you can opt into crazy, but it's very hard to opt into quiet, as you noticed in Tulum. I think we ended really well. I loved it. We were like, we had these little jungle rooms and that little private pool with the cabana and like the living room and the swing. And you and Sherry would sleep out there. And it was so cute. And we'd have the beach all day and we ate great Mexican food and drank mimosas and margaritas and then went out at night. And like the highlight was, of course, the Greek restaurant where we had awesome fire shows and saw nifty people doing acrobats and just being sexy. And it was also amazingly wonderful, awesome time. And you guys all came and put up with it. And
we didn't put up with it. We were so happy to be able to celebrate you and celebrate us. Like the four of us have never, the Just Girls, gotten away on an airplane to a destination. And we've been friends for 28 plus years.
Yeah. And to qualify that, like there have been times when like the spouses or the partners have participated or whatever, but it's never been just us. And the boys had wanted to come fine, but there was a lot of sports going on and like kids and things. And I recognize that. And in fact, part of what inspired me to do the 2.5 weeks was the fact that this was the one weekend in mid-March when everyone was available. And then I was like, I'm not going to just spend 5 days in Mexico and then come home and stare at myself in the mirror and go to work on my birthday and come home and maybe go to yoga and be like, wah, wah. But I was like, fuck would I do that? Like, it literally inspired me to be like, no, I'm just going to stay straight through Easter and I'm going to do this my own way. And if people want to join me, that's awesome. And I love that. And I so appreciate you guys were there. And then
there was something I love that you said, and it's funny at the beginning of this too. You said, I'm not big on birthdays, which is funny because if Nicole, like, she's so big on gifts and celebrating other people, but not necessarily, I think when you say it, celebrating yourself. And what you
Yes.
said when we were in Mexico was, this isn't a birthday, it's a milestone. And I feel like that's such a powerful word, especially as you get older and the milestones are not just birthdays.
Yeah.
We even talked
You're-
about, oh, should we like come back for our 30th friendship anniversary? That
Yes.
a milestone. Like, I
Yes.
think we too often don't celebrate the milestones enough. And that's not always trips to Mexico or Europe or whatever, but just taking a freaking breath and
No.
celebrating milestones.
Yes. Like making space for that and like finding the joyous moments, because as I keep saying this over and over again, I don't want to do whatever time I have left the same way I did it up to this point. And part of it actually has been a learning process through our work together, is like figuring out what my priorities in life are, like navigating so much freaking change. How much has my life changed in 6 years? Radically different. I feel like a different person. Hell, I have a fucking real tan. This is amazing. I'm like, I feel good. And the other thing is that I've always been afraid to celebrate my successes or to say things positively, privately, publicly, because I feel
Mm.
like it slaps me down. I'm very superstitious. And I've often felt slapped down when I celebrate myself or celebrate my success or prognosticate some sort of happiness. I always feel like I have to be like, mashallah, like it's God's will, like thanks be to God, that good things are happening in my life. And I'm often afraid to actually
Mm.
say what I want and then to celebrate those good things that happen. And the other thing I keep in mind all the time is something that you told me, is that it's not about perfection. And this word keeps coming up, but it's about creating a vibe. And that has taken so much stress off my life in both work and life and how I want to do things. Like when you're constantly focusing on like the very specific things, I want this dinner party to be perfect and I have to make the perfect dinner and I have to do this and I have to, or I have to have this perfect presentation. Every dot has to be right or whatever. You lose focus of what the overall outcome is and what the impact is that you want. And then oftentimes my own anxiety would just get in the way of actually having the impact that I want or enjoying the moment. And I was just like, I didn't plan every second of our trip. In fact, I wasn't even sure, as you mentioned, if you all were coming with the week ahead. So I booked, I made sure we had accommodations. I generally knew the landscape of opportunities. We had one big dinner planned and everything else was open to see how we were feeling and where we were and assessing the safety, assessing expense, assessing mood, assessing health, assessing like what we wanted to do. But the vibe that I wanted was togetherness and
That's what it was.
and
That's
that's
what
what
it
it
was.
was. It was
That's what
amazing.
And it's and I think that there is largely an anti-correlation between perfection and planning and being able to create a vibe of connection,
Yeah.
because that just allowed us to get done with yoga and say, what do we want to do next? It allowed us to
Yeah.
feel no angst when we were sitting and falling asleep at 5 o'clock in our private little area because we weren't overscheduled. And so
The hot
I
mess
just,
dinner was at 9 o'clock.
yeah. And I think this is the case across not just personal life. Like when you were talking about it too, I immediately think of like sales presentations, town halls. If you can take a step back and say, not how do I make sure everything's planned out, an event, right? A conference, like how do I instead, what's the vibe I want to create and then solve for that equation versus the other way. And yes, you still then will have things that you plan out, but I think you just get to a very different answer and a very different outcome.
Think about it this way, right? It's remember when people would make PowerPoint presentations and they would read them to you and you would
Mm.
just like, you and how uninspiring was that? First of all, you can read. Second of all, you're like, this is a meeting that could have been an email. Like the information was not resonating oftentimes, even if it was totally laid out, it was all the information was in there. You're just like, I'm not here to be part of this.
And it gets in the way of connection and discussion. Like, so not only is it
yes.
annoying, but it is
Yes.
literally like a roadblock, a barrier completely to free
Totally.
thought, to discussion and interaction and connection
Totally.
as well.
Yeah, and I think so and it also can create anxiety, and who wants anxiety? I also think there's a lot with okay, I also hear this from people they're like, "Oh, I'm so stressed out planning the family vacation." And I think to myself, "Oh, don't plan it
Don't
all.
plan it.
Just go." Not everybody has to be constantly entertained all the time. Like, part of it is just slowness and
Yeah.
boredom and just
To me, that's the biggest
Mhm.
gift, being able to decide that morning what you're in the mood for, depending on how you feel, what time you woke up.
My
What's
days felt slow. My days felt
mm,
actually intentional. And there were some moments where, like, maybe if I had done a little more research, it would have been different, or mismatch of what we were doing versus what maybe other people thought we were doing, not in our group, afterwards.
yeah.
And you know what? Okay, lesson learned. Like, you also realize brain is not totally full. You can be like a more thoughtful partner. You can have better conversations. You can speak more freely. Like, I felt like I unfolded, if that makes any sense. Over the
Mm.
2.5 weeks. Like, my body just unfolded.
Hey there, it's Erin. I'm just popping in real quick to ask you a question. Is there any chance you know someone who is looking for a keynote speaker for their upcoming event? Look, I know that many event organizers, they struggle to find a speaker who provides both tangible value and business knowledge, but that also lights their audience on fire. And I truly believe there aren't many speakers like me out there who are both former corporate executives and professionally trained speakers. And there's definitely none that roll in with an orange suitcase they unpack with their audience. Trust me on that. I would love nothing more than to bring my message of using authenticity as your strategic career and business advantage to people spinning in your universe, especially if you'd be there. I promise my talks always create an immediate buzz, but not just right after, but for months and years after the event is over. You can learn more about my message, style, and reviews, and share my speaking info by going to beauthenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. That's B, just the letter B, authenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. Or, of course, we have it right in the show notes to make it easy for you too. Often, especially at this age, the big word that comes up to get to a place where you're trying to get, which is a change of course, which is a freer life, better connections, all that stuff, is this concept of maybe if I just set boundaries. And in one sense, you could say, yeah, part of this was you didn't check into email. You didn't tell work I'm going to be
Mhm.
available for emergencies. But I also see other people in our lives, somebody that is like trying to make a shift and has taken on I'm going to set boundaries and that's my strategy. And I think that's actually, if it can have a negative consequence. And I feel like there's a difference between, okay, yeah, you don't want to get taken advantage of, or you don't want to do things that you normally would just do because you felt like you had to and all of that kind of stuff.
Live
But I
thought.
also see a big difference between you and people like that are setting boundaries as their strategy, where you're combining it, but you're also like, I'm going to explore, I'm going to open up my mind, I'm going to, like, there's just such a positive way in which you're entering this new phase. And I think after just seeing some things with some friends who are doing it just with boundaries, which has ended up causing a lot of friction with people and stuff like that, like, I just have to say to you and to our audience, like, the boundaries piece, I think it's overplayed and I think it's a little piece, but what you did is that was like bullet number 7, but you more focused on expansion and freedom and lack of perfection. And I think not enough people talk about it, especially with women our age,
Nope.
that you have to have that combination. You have to go smaller, but you also have to go bigger, if that makes sense.
I think it's important to stick with this point first, because I actually think these moments and these milestones do bring up a lot of thought and discussion about boundaries. And I think boundaries is one of these words too that has entered the everyday like therapeutic lexicon, the self-help lexicon. And it's not that it's bad. It's good. I'm glad we're talking about these things. But the minute these words become commonplace, they often get misused and abused. And so we need moments to clarify. And for me, I've thought quite a bit about boundaries a lot. And for me, I think a lot of, I say this often too, which is mm, like happiness is the difference between like reality and expectations. Boundaries are a way that I help set like good expectation. But boundaries that are healthy are inclusive, right? Those boundaries are thoughtful, like they're related to like dignity and health. And they take into account like the context that you're in and about the way in which you communicate with people. They're bi-directional. You're like, I'm setting a boundary because I'm trying to achieve a healthy outcome for people, right? Boundaries that are unidirectional and that are like done as like a punishment or like a test or like to reduce your vulnerability, I think those are the ones that can become unhealthy because they become exclusionary, right? And the expectation is like I'm an electric fence, right? Not
Zero, and it's
not
a
that I'm a
zero-sum
safe,
game.
right? Not that like I'm like a safe corral. I'm an electric fence, and that can be really unhelpful. Those, particularly those that are like the testing boundaries, really bother me, or like the punishment boundaries, or the ones where it's like you have a need and you're trying to put that onto somebody else. Oh, I'm so bad at managing my work. I need you to send me an email every morning to remind me to do whatever or to do a daily check-in. I need that as a person because that's what my neuroplasticity demands. And it's hold on. Those kinds of boundaries, they put things on other people or the like, if you love me, you'll do whatever. Those are unidirectional. And I'm really want to be careful about those. I feel like the boundaries that are related to, I'm going to figure out how to manage my work and communicate and to plan over the next year so that I can take 2.5 weeks away is great. And also, like another challenging thing was that this trip was not inclusive of everybody in my life. That boundary has been difficult to navigate. And I certainly feel like the fact that I chose to celebrate myself outside of the country with a select few of people for many reasons, including tradition, including having done this before with others, knowing that we're a good group that travels together, having a partner, wanting to spend time. That person, like all of that stuff meant that if I wanted to do things in a way that I envisioned them, m- what how I wanted to feel when I turned 50, it meant having some boundaries. And when I communicated them, some of those boundaries were probably hurtful or maybe confusing to others. Like, I'm not sure my family really understood what I was up to fully. That was a little complicated, right? Because there's a feeling of, oh, Nicole wants to be away for her birthday. Like, she doesn't want to deal with it, or I'm running away from something. And the reality is, I also just I didn't want to turn 50 by myself. And I also didn't want to expect, as like a person who is here by themselves, unmarried or whatever, that someone was going to do something for me. That's not fair either. The weird expectation. And wasn't necessarily being volunteered and is a big ask. If I had planned something here, I'm sure plenty of people would have participated. It would have been fun. But that wasn't what I needed for myself.
That wasn't the feeling.
It wasn't the feeling I needed. What
Yeah.
I needed was to be swimming naked under a full moon in the Caribbean after a lot of mezcal and burritos, tacos, whatever. That's what I needed. That's what I identified that I needed. And I made that happen. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to ensure that I see others and celebrate. I got home at 3 o'clock in the morning on Easter and I had organized Easter brunch. Usually I host it. This year I didn't. Again, the vibe. I wanted to see my family. I wanted to see them for Easter. I wanted to see my mother before she went to North Carolina. I wanted to see Sunny. It was my niece's birthday. And so I organized brunch at the restaurant. Was it the perfect Easter brunch that I usually love? No, but you know what? It was good. And I was there and it all came together. And also Sunny, my nephew, is so funny. He looks at me and he's so, you're back from Mexico. I was like, yes. He's so judging me. He's like, but did you swim with the whale sharks? No, East Lahobel, she's known for whale shark. How this freaking 4-year-old remembered that I was in a place with whale sharks and knows what whale shark was. And I was like, Sonny, it was the wrong season. He looks at me. He's disappointing. But at least you made it back for Jesus's second birthday. Like, Jesus' birthday. I love this. I love this. I was like, he was very judgy about the situation, but we did have some cake and we did celebrate. And it was my niece's 25th birthday too. So
I love it. So what do you think as you bring this into the second fucking half? What do you think this will set you up? What are some things that will change personally, professionally? What feeling do you want, especially on the professional side? I'm curious, like what that might look like.
I want to keep this amazing tan because people have been a lot nicer to me. I think tans represent hope. Like, winter. I want people to be nice to me. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
Be nice to me, and I want to keep this glowing tan. So a couple of things is mental and physical wellness were top on my list.
Mhm.
I don't know that I was in a place, but I don't think I was necessarily in a good place a year or two ago. I was like teetering around. Mental and physical wellness are a really big part of that. Professionally and personally, what that means is like a very healthy balance of things that utilize my mind in way, like I'm contributing in some way, and also gives me the space to go back and to like refresh myself. Like one thing I have learned about myself is that I like being around people, but they drain me. And I need time to reflect. I need time to think. I need time to read. I need time to be away from others and I need to take care of my body so I can keep my anxiety levels down, my nervous system. Like we know this from early on. One of the earliest things that you identified about me was that my nervous system was completely out of whack. Like I was in fight or flight all the time. I no longer operate in that area. I no longer want to operate in that area, particularly professionally. Like I don't want to that anymore. And that means having just like a much stronger sense of the things that trigger me and the things that also lift me up and create this balance. So the other thing for me is that like I do have a pretty healthy exercise routine because I've realized that if I don't move my body, my brain goes to shit. And also like I'm going through menopause, like really going through it. I didn't sleep last night because of like night sweat. And I'm taking some steps around, right? But I'm very aware of where I am like physically, emotionally. And I'm trying to do the things that keep my nervous system from being like overly triggered. And I have a lot of triggers, like personally. I think professionally too, I am really not defined by my career anymore. I also am very aware of the things that have brought me down in the past. Like I have had a lot of come to Jesus moments on this podcast and in conversation with other leaders, with people in the workplace, just like observationally. I've really realized that like I allowed myself to like I didn't have boundaries with myself to some degree, right? I would just let a physical feeling like trigger me and then have to be like the rightest person in the room or stand ground or I was so afraid not to be wrong, but to let something fall apart. Or like things would physically pain me when they weren't being done efficiently, like with their ability. I was always like, I want transparency, I want consistency, I want excellence, I want to just do things the best I can. And I want people to fall in line to do them and to follow my vision because look what I can do. And the truth is that's not how it works. And I've learned that I'm very good in deputy support role. To be higher than that, I'm clear that I would probably need to have good mentoring. Like it's very important that you like the people that you work with and work for and respect them. So I understand like the toxic framework. I'm no longer working in a toxic place, which is amazing. I really am very aware of those triggers to my nervous system and I'm much more focused understanding what really triggers me and what make my nervous system get out of whack. And then I am working to be in an environment where I can balance that and have some control. But I also know that it's important for me to do something that is publicly engaging or doing good in the world. There's a lot of ways to do that. And I'm also pretty convinced that public service, like government work, is exactly the right place for quirky, talented people like me with big hearts, but also maybe don't love like we don't mind politics, but we don't like maybe corporate politics or whatever.
Right. I agree with all of that. I think for me, the umbrella that I've seen is that you used to put so much of your self-worth on how quickly you responded, how hard you worked, how smart your responses were.
Yeah.
That was not just at work, but because, like you said, work was your identity, then that
Yep.
leveled up to if that isn't all there in work, then my main identity
Yes.
is crumbling down. And
Because I had to control the outcome before it got out of hand. Like, I was like, I had to control it, or if I didn't, something would get out of whack.
yeah, and so maybe I'm guessing it was part that. I think it was also a little part self-conscious, like just family stuff, like not always feeling like you were worthy and all of that. But like that to me is the biggest
Partner
thing.
stuff, yeah.
Watching you not respond to emails, not the Nicole of 5 years ago, you could barely have a conversation with sometimes when you're out
Yeah.
because of every work email that came in, that speed. And like you said, maybe I thought it was
Sure.
driven by you want to make sure you look like you're fast. Maybe part of it was more of a control trigger. If I don't respond fast, they might not do it the way I think they should do it with my advice that I think is right. And so it was like a control kind
A
of
devil's
thing.
circle.
But I think that for you and for so many people is such a big shift. And the sooner you can
Yeah.
do that, and unfortunately, a lot of people it takes till they're 40 or 50 to get there. But I just love seeing the confidence that you have that your self worth is not tied to how hard you work, how fast you respond, how available you are. And it's not even how, once you respond, how intelligent that is. Like I've seen you step into such leadership roles, the stories about the funny things you do, and how I'm
Um,
sure how much people just enjoy loving working with you, whether it's in a subordinate type relationship and you're the leader or it's a peer. That's what I think was so suppressed for so long because it's hard to do both. It's hard to be the always responding, always right, and also be the just follow me out of curiosity kind of person. And I feel like that you've really stepped into that.
and to open myself up to be like, I don't know the answers, but I'm gonna be the person who creates the process so we can get to a good answer. And
And slow
one of
the
the
frick down to do that,
I'll
which
just break
is
down.
hey guys, Erin here. Stop, 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 stop. Do not do it. Don't fast forward. I have something too important. I have a couple of very passive aggressive questions to ask you that you don't want to miss. Here they are. One, do you find yourself often comparing yourself to others? Like, they work harder than me. They get noticed more than me. They have better luck than me. They're smarter than me. Or do you also just feel exhausted from having to always work as hard, if not harder, than everybody else to stand out and succeed? Like, I know you have these challenges. We all do. And this is why I wrote the 50% rule. And I know you need to read another book like you need a hole in the head. But I'm telling you, this book and this rule, I'm obsessed with it. And it has changed my life. It has changed the lives of others around us. And it has also been the formula for success behind so many successful people. Savannah Bananas, Hamilton, Weird Al Yankovic. The 50% rule is the simplest shortcut to stop comparing, stop copying, stop chasing other people, and like literally compete in your league of your own. There isn't a day that doesn't go by where I stop myself and I'm like, oh, she did a talk that I wish I could do. She's got more. No, it doesn't matter because we don't compete in the same league. I compete in a league of my own because I am constantly 50% ruling things. So if you're interested in this concept, which by the way is more fun as a team sport, but at least start with yourself. You cannot miss this book. It's not only powerful, it's really freaking fun to read. That is always my number one goal. It was my number one goal with my first book. It's my number one goal with the 50% rule. I want to make it enjoyable to read it. Why? So that you read it. So if you feel like you are stuck with these comparison cramps or just all the symptoms that I talk about in the book of sleep running syndrome, self-doubt gout, and pioneer paralysis, and well, you have to read the book to find out more, then just go buy the darn book. Easiest way, go to Amazon, search the 50% rule, and I cannot wait to hear how you 50% rule things.
One of the things that I saw in the toxic environment where I was, an environment where like our leadership was trying to control the narrative, sometimes like not honestly, and also was just had such a vision, a good vision, in fact, a great vision. They didn't realize that in the position that we're in, public facing, whatever, just in the world, it's a slow process to bring people into that vision. And ultimately it really destroyed them and took them down quite publicly. And now they're no longer in that role and have had to face like a lot of backlash and a lot of complicated politics, and everyone's going to land well. But the truth is that it really, like, I watched like what I was skirting around for so long, like completely take someone down in a spectacular way. And I was like, those are the lessons that I learned. Like, I watched it
You
happen.
watched it through
They
the
didn't build
looking glass.
consensus. They didn't say, okay, I can't do all this, but maybe I can do this. I can't beat people into submission. I can't inauthentically drive them to some way with my power. I watched that all happen. And I was like, I need to recalibrate. But also, do you want to hear my latest and greatest, like, possible HR violation? That is,
Of course we do.
because of course, like, I am still me.
Wait, can I cap off what you said just really quick? This is a little bit like cheesy, but it feels like the theme of that is go slow to grow. I feel like
Yeah.
between your vacation and that, like, there's just, and I think that's hopefully a new era that we're all going to have to work hard to get at. Despite everything coming at us so quickly, how can we like go slow to grow?
Give people space. The other thing that I have realized is that, like, so here's back to our classic boundaries, like, knowledge is a boundary, right? And it can be used positively and negatively. One boundary is that, like, I have knowledge and I'm going to bring people into my knowledge and we're going to all come together with our knowledge and we're going to work together and we're going to make some hard decisions and we're going to compromise, but we're going to bring people into the knowledge circle. The other one is I have knowledge and I'm going to keep you outside of it and I'm only going to share a third of it. I'm going to do like poker face so that I can exert control over decision making. Or even better, I'm going to let you, decision maker, make the decision and I'm going to come back and be like, but you didn't think about this. And that is something I fucking hate. And that is what I have realized that I don't want to do. And also when people do it around me, I call them out on it or we discuss it. And I legitimately start my conversation by setting an intention to be like, I'm having this conversation because what I care about is this. You probably care about this, but in the middle is something that we can learn and grow from and we can use to help us drive our work. Or you might not be thinking about how we allocate work easily. You might be thinking about the outcome of this decision. Let's use this process to talk about this decision so that we can think about how we best allocate our work. And suddenly the conversation starts to shift. And I truly think this is going to be important for the next couple of years. We're in a very difficult space where we're, like, at least in this job where, look, I'm in utility regulation. It is not fucking sexy. It is hard work. We live in a state with some of the most expensive utility prices in the world. We're at the party the other night, and how many times did you come back at Sherry's birthday party? Every time you stepped away and came back, somebody was up my ass about utilities. Like,
and I saw a thread a couple days ago that was like how Connecticut, like, we ranked like one of the happiest states, and a bunch of people from Connecticut weighed in, and somebody was like, yeah, except for the utilities, except for energy sucks.
Like, the prices are out of control. Literally, like, we're at a party, we're drinking French martinis. I'm in some kind of ridiculous party outfit. Like, we're like dancing in the beer pong room because, of course, there's a beer pong room. It's Connecticut. And people are like, so let's talk about like the utility rates. And I was like, oh my God. So it really is, this is a stressful time. There's a lot of work going on. And I'm just like, I'm not going to worry about that. What I'm going to continue to think about is however things manifest themselves, like, is to keep close to the conversations and to come back to that place every time where I'm like, I can't make good decisions when my nervous system is out of whack. So I'm going to keep myself in a place of calm and have those inclusive conversations. But
let's cap up with, I want to hear that HR violation. I always like to keep these stories. HR violation, and then I think the golden egg we should give our listeners, which, at the end is you have to tell the story too about your house and when you got back and your brother.
Yeah. Oh no, I have a few more things. Oh, for sure. But I think you'll find this funny. So I have a deputy and she is like the opposite personality of me, but she's super funny. And I just away with word. And she's spicy, put it that way. She's like
Mm.
me, but spicier, right?
Mm.
Big Italian family. Like you can see how we get along. In fact, I used to work with her mom and like we used to have 50 cups, like pretty funny. I'll call her A. So A, I think sometimes she gets exasperated with me. And one of the things that she says all the time when she's done with conversation is lately she'll say, okie dokie, okie dokie. And I'm like, and
Such an old person saying.
okie dokie, okie dokie. I'll do what you say. But often it's said over like Teams or something. And I can tell it's like the end of the conversation. So I came back after 2.5 weeks and we were going through some stuff, just giving me an update. And I'm like, I'm going to go slow out of the gate. I'm not going to make any big decisions. I'm still catching up. No big deal. I was like, and then there was one thing I was like, except for this, and then whatever. And then she's okie dokie. Now, mind you, she's been managing shit for 2.5 weeks. Like, did not need me. And I go, oh God, the dreaded okie dokie. I was like, oh no. I was like, you know what? I was like, hey, when you say okie dokie, you're like, that's not okie dokie. That's okie dokie with a fucking dagger. And I was like, with blood dripping. So I just kept teasing her about every time she says okie dokie, I feel like a part of me has died. And so I sent her a graphic image that I had AI create, which was an okie dokie tattoo, which was done in like this kind of like cryptic Gothic Adams family scroll that like ends with a little dagger and like a drop of blood. And I was like, and she constantly is, I'm going to get another tattoo this weekend. And I'm not a tattoo person. I was like, if you get this tattooed on you, I was like, I'll pay for it. She's home obsessed. I love it. I guarantee she comes back because she's also an April baby. I guarantee she comes back for her birthday with the okie dokie tattoo. And I was like, I will feel like my job as a manager is done.
Mic drop. Total mic drop.
And if she gets it, I'm going to share a picture of it with the group.
That's
the
amazing.
Dreaded okie dokie.
Okie dokie.
The dagger and the little blood. And I was like, the okie dokie. I'm already getting the okie dokie shit. One of the other lawyers tried to use it, and I was like, no. I was like, you don't get to use that. I was like, you have not earned that. So careful. Yeah, but it was so funny though. In all of this, because of course my life is hilarious. Everyone was like nervous about Mexico, and I was a little bit nonchalant, and that's fine. And I make funny jokes all the time about like living in a neighborhood. But I come back, and so first of all, I had installed cameras because I was like, I can like at least see what's going on. Cameras go down sometime during the first week. I guess my internet went down, of course, right? So I can't even see what's going on. I'm like, oh, just like it'll be fine. It's New Haven. I've got 2 neighbors that never leave on either side of me. Big deal. A couple things happened. One, the building across the street slid into the river. It like collapsed. Illegal like excavation and like cleaning of the site. And I'm like,
no permits,
no nothing. Just a bunch of Italians with like backhoes, probably removing the bodies. And I'm thinking to myself, of course. And then I'm like, I totally went Karen on this whole thing. I'm like really worried about this development went on. So first of all, the building like slid into the river and there's like debris everywhere. And I was like, oh shit. Then I come back and there's a sign. There's one of those little orange and black signs nailed to my gate that says, posted, no trespassing. And I'm like, I wonder why this is here. Now, I'm afraid to ask these questions, but I assume that maybe someone had tried to like get into the yard or maybe had crawled between, there's like a small space between my house and my neighbor's house that is a great place to do drugs and other illicit things. And I thought, oh, maybe my neighbor caught someone doing that. So I'm not feeling great, but like the next day I go out and I'm like, and I see Joe outside, the weather's a little better. I'm like, Joe, you know anything about the sign on my gate? And he was like, yeah. Have you looked at the sidewalk? And I was like, no. And he like comes on over and he goes, that's blood. And I look down and there's blood splatter all over the sidewalk, into the street, in my front porch, like the front landing area, on the fence post, like leading up the stairs and all over the trash can. And I was like,
that's a lot of blood.
Oh. I was like, that's a lot of blood. And then Joe's like, yeah, like some guy like got stabbed like right in front of your house. And I was like, really? And I was like, and then he expands. He's like, actually, he was rifling through your trash can and he sliced his hand open on something. Curious because I had not put anything in the trash inside.
And that's a lot of blood.
A lot of blood everywhere. So like totally sliced his hand open, and, like, blood everywhere, and I'm like, maybe he was running from Joe, like, I don't even know, but apparently someone came onto my property, sliced their hand open, or got stabbed, or impaled themselves somehow while I was gone, and then bled everywhere. So I come home and I was like, people are afraid of freaking Tulum. We literally are in restaurants with women who are like basically naked. Beers are like $100. Like people are like they're sipping Coke from the back of a toilet. They're down in vodkas 8 at a time. They're wearing Christian Louboutins on the beach. And I'm like, they're worried about that? And I come home from Fairhaven. There's a freaking massacre on my front porch. And so I was like, this is fabulous. And then my brother asked me to babysit last night as an emergency. And I was like, why don't you and your fire boys, because he's lieutenant in the fire department. I was like, why don't you fire boys?
Oh, I thought he just offered. I didn't know this was a
I was like,
thing.
no. I was like, why don't you fire boys come over here with your fire trucks, come clean up the crime scene, because I know you do that. So like I walk
Yeah, Manny
outside.
said that's a thing that they do. So
They do. They clean up like blood and crime scenes. Like that's one of the things they do. And so he was like, so I walk outside yesterday and like I see my brother and like Engine 17 just like spraying the thing down with all kinds of cleaning agents. And that's a lot of blood. And I was like, welcome to Fairhaven. I was like, welcome home. I'm keeping the sign up though. Posted no trespassing. Joe was very concerned about my liability. I'm like, some guy got stabbed on my property while going through my shit. I was
not
I was
in
like,
the insurance policy or whatever.
I have a feeling, I have a strange feeling he's probably not going to get legal counsel. No, I'm not entirely worried about this. So I'm like, I'm not so worried, but I'll keep the sign up. It makes Joe feel better. And he was like, you shouldn't tell anybody. It creates liability. I was like,
Did you grab a DNA sample before you got rid of all the evidence?
I did not, but I did not also clean it up myself because I was like, what if it's contaminated? I don't know. But, you know, and I hate to say this, but if I was home, I probably would have. I'm sure I would have called 911, but I also might have filmed it.
For sure.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So we're back. Mexico was safe and good and lovely. And it was really awesome to celebrate the way that I wanted, in a way, to mark time in a special way and to start me off in a good place where I feel unfolded and healthy with a calm nervous system and loved and appreciated and seen and all of those things. And I don't even have to put blood on my front steps anymore.
All is success. I'm so glad that you got to do that we got to share that. I know it's been a while since we've been on, and I know we focus on your growth, but you helped me to continue to grow too and help our listeners grow.
Don't forget that we got the best compliment. Remember? Because when that other girl group showed up, and there were like tons of girl groups and they were all like so like perfect, and there was so much like Botox and boob jobs and lip fillers and everything. And the head of that girl group comes over to our girl group and she's, you're a whole vibe. And I was like, see, that's Erin in action.
Which what I love most about that story is I didn't even notice other girl groups. I just feel so entrenched in us getting our time together and didn't give two shits about everybody else's stuff. But we are a vibe, mainly because you are a vibe leader.
Hey, I'm serious. I really want to do that again. I'm in my FIBI phase, fuck it, book it phase.
Phoebe.
Yeah, Phoebe. So like, I am just feeling, I am feeling like those are the priorities.
That's what life's all about.
A lot going on in our lives. But may I say this is just, and you say this all the time, which is like, spend the time to celebrate the people that you love because it goes fast. To mark the time, it doesn't matter what you mark, to mark the time, to bring people into your joy, right? And to share it and to recognize that you just need time to unfold.
I love it. You're very unfolded. I love unfolded, Nicole.
Well done.
May everybody listening start their unfolding process immediately, not with laundry.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus You want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve. Could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. We see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.